tribe of Israel, which is right as well, from Jacob and Sarah, right? Because Joseph had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. So those actually were one of the two tribes in the Levitical tribe, the Levites. They actually became, Yah's tribe. So that's when we had 13 in all. So, hopefully that would kind of help put some understanding of what we're going to talk about here. So this was supposed to be the nice graphic that zooms out and stuff. That's what I can't have now. So maybe when I get it together, I'll put it on YouTube or something, right? But man, back in 1450, nobody really knows, BC, Mosaic covenant. That's when Moses was given the covenant. And this is the mountain, right? Mount Sinai, or you hear them also as Horeb or Jabal El Lawz. So if you look up that now, you'll see this mountain. You also will see a plain. You also see like the altars that they built. When he hit the rock and it split it, the rock is there. With water, it looked like it came down. All this stuff is right there. They even have an altar where, you remember they had the golden calf? So they have an altar with golden calf scratched. I remember said, don't make graven images. Scratching golden calf. A calf was up there. You see a menorah of this. Wow. So all the things that's in the Bible is right there. And it's even worse, because even when it talks about the Red Sea, they have golden chariot wheels. The Red Sea. In this place, they said is the Red Sea. So, when the people in Egypt were following, the sea came and killed them. They had chariots and horses, and they found horse bones, chariot wheels, all this stuff in this one place. And they had used to have a pillar that said that this is the place where Moses crossed the sea. So all this stuff is true. So we got to think about where we are now, right? So what was so important about this covenant that he gave? So if we turn to Exodus chapter 19, we're going to read 1 through 9. Somebody read for me, if you don't mind. Because a lot of people don't know there was two covenants given. A lot of people talk about their covenant, but there was two covenants that actually occurred during this time. And it's very important to understand the difference between the two. Exodus 19. Somebody going to read for me? All right, appreciate it. Verse 1. We're going to read out to 9. I might stop you in more places.
In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai.
So that's important. Wilderness of Sinai, right? So we said we're on the mountain of Horeb. So here you hear it called Sinai, Mount Sinai. So it's the same place. Please continue.
For they were departed from Rephaim and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mount. And Moshe went up unto Yahuwah, and Yahuwah called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, Tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself.
That's important, right? So he basically said he saved them and brought them to the wilderness on eagle's wings. That's important because if you think in Revelations, it says that he will take the people out, that he saved Israel, the lady, the woman, and gave her eagle wings, right? To take her to the wilderness. Sounds very similar, right? All right.
Now, therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
So right there, you heard that scripture about being a peculiar people? Priesthood talks about it?
Yeah.
So it talks about even way back then. This is him just coming out of Egypt. It says that you're going to be selected to be that peculiar people. So peculiar means very, you're peculiar about stuff, right? There's something special about you. So this is when he's giving a covenant to the people, giving it to our people. Yeah. So it's different when you start talking about us. This is the covenant he gave us. Yeah. And when I was in Christian churches, it was like, gave it to these other people, Jews, it's not important, I'm a Gentile, I'm coming a different way. But no, he gave it to us. Yeah. So it's very important, all right?
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation.
It's a priesthood, right?
These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which Yahuwah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that Yahuwah has spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto Yahuwah.
So they agreed to the terms. He said, I will make you this special people. Only thing you have to do is be connected to me. And they said, all the elders and people said, yes, we agree to it. Right? So did we break that covenant? Yeah, we did. Right? So how do we return to that covenant? Right? All right?
And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moshe told the words of the people unto Yahuwah.
So he had to go back up into a thick cloud, right? Well, to meet him, he's in a thick cloud, right? So when he goes up there, that we will continue to read, it says that that's when the thunder and the lightning came down on the mountain, right? That's verse 16. And they heard a trumpet, an exceeding loud trumpet, right? So do y'all know about that verse that says when the last trump sounds, that he will come to gather his people?
Yes.
Very interesting. So when we do Feast of Trumpets, it's very important, right?
That's
right.
So now we can make a connection back to the original covenant that he gave us. That all these holidays and feast days is not just playtime, it's very serious. It's time that he wants to come down and meet to him, the Moedim, right? He wants to come and spend time with us.
That's right.
Right? Set appointed times for us. All right? And then it says in verse 18, it talks about that he will descend upon it in fire and smoke. So you still looking at the mountain, what was on top of the mountain? It was burnt. It was charred. Fire had burnt the mountain. And actually scientists went out there and they showed that it's not just act of nature, something actually went down and burned the mountain, as the scripture says.
That's right.
So the scripture is true. Where is our life with him?
Hallelujah.
Wow.
It's a spiritual thing. It's just not about, it's important that we wear all the tassels and things. I need to get some of mine, start to understand how important that is. But also the spiritual significance is more important, right? So he said the mountain quaked greatly, and it says in the last days the mountains were shaking and stuff. So it said the trump sounded loud, right? So it continued to grow louder and louder. So, I'm sorry, I'm too fast there. All right. So then he came back down and he said, told the people all the words. That's in Exodus 24. We'll read 3 through 8. I'm just going through some of the scriptures to save time. But basically he said all the words that, and the people once agreed to it, right? And that's what it says, Moses wrote all the words of Yah and rose up early in the, this is verse 4, rose up early in the morning, built an altar under the hill, 12 pillars, according to the 12 tribes of Israel. If you go to the mountain, guess what? You can tell what the altars were, even to this day. You know? And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto Yahuwah. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in the basin, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant, right? Torah, right? So important. And read it in the audience of the people. And they said, all that Yahuwah have said will we do, and be obedient. So are we obedient? Have we done it? No. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people. So what does that sound like? That's right.
Yeah.
Then the Messiah died, his blood not only covered us, but removed the sin away.
Yeah.
Right? So when Moses took the blood and sprinkled on the people, and behold, the blood of the covenant, of the promise, that's what it's all about, the promise, between the agreement between us, which Yahuwah has made with you concerning all these words. So that covenant, it was very important, that act that happened. And he left the mountain there to show us that it truly happened.
That's right.
So there's no denying. There is certainly a mountain there that's been just like the scripture says. So when people say the Bible's not true, I'm like, how can you say that? You know, what other religion is true? How can you prove any other religion? You can't. So, but we got evidence, not just fables and stories. We have evidence, right? So we then talking about Deuteronomy 28. Everybody knows what most people know about Deuteronomy 28. It says you'll be cursed in the field and cursed with illness, sent as slave across the world. It says that you have anxiety for your life and you're living in depression, never succeeding. Another one will sleep with your wives. You know what happened with the women, part of the slave trade. You'll build buildings but can't live in them. Farms but cannot partake of the harvest. Children will be sold to captivity. You know what happened to the children of the slaves, right? Resources of the land will be used by another nation. You know, in Africa, that thing is just raped every day, right? They're talking about all the money that's pulled out of Africa, right? would be called the byword in all nations. So it's amazing. People just talking about how we call the word here, but if you start talking about cushy and stuff in Israel, it's the same word. They have a word for black people. They call them what do they call them down in South Africa? Yes, Kappa. They call them that. So all around the world, the same people from the transatlantic was called byword. Wow, that's amazing, right? None of them did right. None of them actually prospered. No, none of them prospered. All around on the transatlantic slave, now we have individual people. We got LeBron James and stuff like that. But that prosper. But still, there's still a certain limit that he can only move to before they start coming down on him, like Bill Cosby and everybody else, right? So locusts shall eat crops in Africa. They got locusts that can still go there now. Will be at the bottom, and the others will lend to you. So we know about the lending process. It's very hard for American Israelites, or people call African Americans. It's hard for us to get loans more than other people. We know that, right? So it keeps on going. Cannibalism, we know that's in Africa. Women will be evil towards their husbands, sons and daughters, and men will be evil towards Men will be evil towards their brothers, wife, and children who they will leave. So that's a growing epidemic in our communities, right? And then, this one's just heavy. Iron yokes will be put on their necks. You can see all the pictures. You see iron yokes all around our necks, right? And we'll be taken away on ships. That's just very easy to understand that is us. So there was a second covenant that was actually given on Deuteronomy 29. So Deuteronomy 28, right, talks about the curses and the blessings. So we know based upon that, it says it's going to continue to be on the people until they're destroyed off the face of the earth. So, and if you, like I said, if you know about what Benea actually does about the Portuguese Jews and how they actually took and robbed them and how, took their land and possessions and everything else and sent them as slaves down to Africa, you can kind of understand, how this same cycle continues to happen all over and over again, right? So in the second covenant in the land of Moab, so another land that actually happened, and it says, these are the words of the covenant, chapter 29, verse 1. And it says, these are the words of the covenant. So there's another covenant, which Yahuwah commanded Moshe to make with the children of Israel in the land of Moab, beside the covenant which he made with them in Horeb. So showing me that's an additional one. It's a second one, right? Keep therefore the words of this covenant and do them, that ye may prosper in all that ye do, which we didn't do. Ye stand this day, all of you, before Yahuwah your Yah, or your God, your captains, your tribes, your elders, your captains of your tribes, your elders, your officers, with all the men of Israel. Now listen to this part. With your little ones, the children, okay? So this is a covenant with the children. With your wives, right? And thy stranger. Who's a stranger? That is in thy camp. From the hewer of thy wood, the wood carriers, unto the drawer of thy water. So even the woodcutters, that's not even part of the nation, they were strangers. They were part of this covenant. The wives and the little ones, so it wasn't just men, the children was part of the covenant, right? So who are these, let me make sure. Oh, let me finish. It says that thou shouldest enter into the covenant by Yahuwah thy God, and into this oath, which Yahuwah thy God maketh with thee this day. On verse 13, that he may establish thee today for a people unto himself. So he said, we are his people. We can't just live any kind of way. We just can't do anything because we are his people. We are a symbol on the earth for who he is in relationship not only to the world, but to us as his people, right? So that's why we can't just live any kind of way. We can't just do any kind of thing. Just can't say anything. We're a light unto other people. Just like Yahushua, Messiah, he came down to be a light unto the world, he said even to the Gentiles, right? So, as he sworn to the fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, neither with you only do I make this covenant and this oath, but with him that standeth here with us this day before Yahuwah our God, our Elohim. So we know that that's some of the other nations that was with him. And also with him that is not here with us this day. So who is that? Us, talking about the future. Yeah. Us. So we are already in this covenant as well because our forefathers placed this covenant on us. Wow. It's very important for us to know that, right? So why are we not, we have to make sure we understand the accountability that was put on us.
That's right.
So those who could become Israel based upon the law, right? So in Exodus chapter 12, on verse 48 and 49, and it says, when a stranger shall journey with thee, and will keep the Passover to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised, right? So this is the stranger. And then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land. So he's just going to be just like the ones that was born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourn among you. So even the people that was among them, they had to also be held to the same law. So same commandments, everything, pork, everything, all that, all the same commandments. No matter if they Israelites or they were part of the Gentiles or Edomites or whatever they were, if they dwell among them, they had to be held to the same laws, right? And the same one, on verse 14 is very similar, talking about, and they that are born of the country shall do the things after this manner, an offering made by fire, a sweet savor unto Yahuwah. Verse 14 says, and if a stranger sojourn with you, or whoever be among you in your generation, talking about the future, and will offer an offering made by fire, and it talks about some of those things. Just skipping down, trying to save some time here. And verse 15 says, the end of it, so shall the stranger be before Yahuwah. One law and one manner shall be for you and for the stranger that serves you. So one law, once again, that same law, same commandments that be before them and us, even in the future. All right?
That's good.
So who were the people of Deuteronomy 29? Anybody ever heard of the Kenites? Who are the Kenites? Anybody know? You can't see you right here, but who are the Kenites? Hamites? Okay. All right. So, now Heber the Kenite, which was of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses. So who's Hobab? Everybody know who Hobab is? So Hobab was actually Jethro's son, so this is father-in-law, but basically it was the son of Jethro. Jethro was Moses' wife, father. So it was his father-in-law. So this was his brother-in-law. And he actually showed him how to make it through the desert. As they traveled, Moses asked him to come be with us, help us travel through the desert, because you know all the places, you know what. And he said yes. So the people that came from Hobab was a Midianite. So who were the people of the Midianites?
They're Shemites.
Yeah, from who?
They're from
Abraham. We talked about that at the beginning. Okay, I now know why I put that slide in there. I couldn't remember before, but now I know. So they came from Abraham, right? And it's very interesting because they call them Cushites too. So there's a lot of debate if they, like my brother was saying, are they Hamites or Shemites? It's very interesting because they call Zipporah a Cushite. So I don't have the answer. I just got clarity. All right.
Well, I was listening to somebody that was explaining. Some of them were called Hamites because in that kingdom, it was actually Nimrod's kingdom.
Okay.
It was called the kingdom of Ham. So the people there, even though they were Shemites, because Shem was always there with them.
Gotcha.
And so those people still bore the name of Ham, but yet they were of Shem.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense because I think Eber, Abraham's descendant, he married Nimrod's daughter, who was a mixture of both. So that makes sense. Thank you. And he was a Cushite, so that makes sense. So now Heber the Kenite of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law, and Moses. So Kenites were actually Hobab's children. So I'm not going through all this, but anybody ever heard of Jael?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Jael? Get some participation. All right, y'all remember the man that actually was going against them? He ran. Woman met her at the tent, said, "Come in, I'm gonna give you some milk." And she went to sleep. She took a tent peg and hit him in the head. She was a Kenite. She was Jael, the Kenite. So these are the people showing you that they were already living among Moses and the people. Well, Moses stuff was after, but it was living among the people, right? Living among the Israelites. So, you ever heard of the Rechabites? Rechabites? Who's the Rechabites? I see some people saying, yeah, I'm not going to call you out, even though you're saying yes. But you know, I was just saying, Jeremiah. So I don't know why I had NIV. I don't like the NIV, but for some reason I had that in there. But these are the Kenites who came from Hamath, the father of the Rechabites, right? So it says right there, the Rechabites come from Kenites. So in Jeremiah, basically what happened is that Yah told Jeremiah to go among the Rechabites, and he offered them some wine. They said, we don't drink wine. We're not part of that. And he said, why do you drink wine? He said, because our forefathers told us not to drink of it. And he said, well, basically, you've been keeping that same commandment that he gave you all these years? And they were like, yeah. And he said, my people Israel won't do right. You know, after they've been told, gave them the covenant and told it to people, but here these people have been given a command from their forefathers, and they kept it all this time. So these are the Kenites that was among them. So, you know, these are some of the people where it says the strangers that's among you. This is one of the groups, right? And you can read that for yourself. But, you know, basically they held on to them. They were blessed in the end. Let me see if I can find it. It says, therefore thus said, in verse 19, therefore thus says Yahuwah of hosts, the God of Israel, Jonab, the son of Rechab, shall not want a man to stand before me in the kingdom. Oh, no, that's something different, sorry. That's one of them slides I didn't get right. But there was a blessing. I'm trying to see where it was the blessing. But there was a blessing that was given to them even after that, even though they weren't the people, but they were among the people. Oh. All right? So what about the Egyptians? The Egyptians were among them, and there were Egyptian men among them. You know, a lot of people don't think when they actually left after all the plagues, that some of those men said, hey, these people are somebody special. I'm out of here. I'm going to go along with them. I'm going to cleave to them. Right? So it says in Leviticus 24:10, it says, and the son of an Israelitish woman whose father was an Egyptian. So this man actually made I think he uses Yah's name in vain. And he was collected, and he was basically killed for doing that. So he had the same law, even though he wasn't one of the people, right? Because that was actually given to them, even though when we talked about in Deuteronomy 29, right? So the Edomites, they were among them. A lot of people don't think about that. The Edomites were actually among the people of Israel when they were given the covenant. Mm. It says the Edomites, somebody help me out. Amalek, thank you. Sorry, who fought Moses and the Egyptians among the Israel. Genesis 36:12, it says, Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. So anybody from Esau is Edomite, right? Yeah. And she bare to him Eliphaz, help me out? Amalek, thank you. These were the sons of Edah, Esau's wife. And basically what happened in Exodus 17, they actually went to war with Israel as they were leaving in Rephidim. You know, we talked about that earlier, right? So, and basically they lost. That's when, I don't know if you ever heard of Abraham having to hold up the banner, and the people had to hold up their hands and make sure so they can continue to win the war. That's what they were fighting. And when you win the battle, what happens to the people that's still left over? What happens to the people when you win the battle? And then, you know, they're the enemies. Take them captive, right? What do you use them as? Woodcutters, water carriers. So what it says back in Deuteronomy 29, they will be what? You know, there's some woodcutters and people among them, right? So it's very interesting. But it also says that the third generation, basically talks about that in Deuteronomy 23, verse 3. It talks about how the Moabites and Ammonites, Yah was real mad at them, right? Because he said they won't even be part of it, even in the 10th generation, they can't even come in. But it says that the Edomite and the Egyptian, their children can come in the third generation. Interesting, right? So later on he says that, you know, they bad people and he hates them, but hey, at this time, it was different. So is Israel then replaced? No. Big no. No, because we got another covenant, right? So the New Testament is basically talking about the new covenant, right? So if we turn to Jeremiah 31, it talks about a new covenant that I will make in verse 31 to 34. It talks about that I will make a new covenant with the house of who? Israel, and with the house of Judah. So Israel and Judah are what? The two tribes, right? Israel was the northern tribe, Judah was the southern. Right? So he says the covenant that I will make with their fathers. So does everyone in the world have the same grandfathers? No. So we know right there that something's up with that, right?
Yeah.
And it says, I will make with the house of Israel after those days. What are those days that will come? He's talking about after what days? What are you talking about, right? After those days back then, so it's talking about the future, right? And he said, I'll put the law in my hearts and their inner parts and write in their hearts, right? And shall teach no more every man his neighbor. So what am I doing right now? I'm teaching. So has a new covenant came. No, it was established, but has it actually came? Because we got to look at who he's talking to at the time, right? Has Israel and Judah came back together?
No.
Okay, so we got to make sure we understand in context of the scripture. And every man his brother saying, Know Yahuwah, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, saith Yahuwah, for I will give them their iniquity, forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. So, will he remember our sin anymore? No. So if you go out there and kill somebody, will he remember that? We're not there yet, right? Because you go out and do wrong. It says in Revelation 21:8, but the fearful and the unbelieving, and abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake of fire, lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So the second death ain't came, right? And he says still people going to go to hell for their sins when they do wrong, when they lie and cheat and do stuff that's wrong. So we know that this covenant hasn't been fully fulfilled, right? They say, remember your sins no more. So when we say in the, Christian church, what we call the Western Christian church, we always say, grace and sins, you can do what you want to do. We know something's wrong with that. If there's a lake of fire where your sins will be, held accountable for your sins. Mm-hmm. So even we keep reading, it talks about, if these ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahuwah, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. If heaven above can be measured, anybody measured heaven? Mm-hmm. You ever measured space? Mm-mm. Right? And the foundations of the earth searched out beneath. I don't even know what the foundation of the earth is. Y'all don't have no clue. So I will also cast out all the seed of Israel. So that means Israel is still a nation unto this day. So it's not like there's a new Israel, replacement Israel, or anything else. We're going to get to it, By that time, we're going to get to who's the replacement, how they were replaced. Mm-hmm. But we have to make sure we understand, they got a little heads up there. We got to understand how, the people were replaced and how the covenant was given at the very beginning. So when we know where we are now, we understand how the covenant should be still applied. Yeah. So I was going to go through a lot of this, but I'm going to do the speedway. So we talked about the 10 Commandments, right? Yep. Then we talked about Solomon's temple. That was established. David actually helped Solomon build the temple. That temple was destroyed. It was sent out to Babylon, and they came back and built Zerubbabel's temple under the Persians. Mm-hmm. Right? So even when the Old Testament ends, they're still in captivity to the Persians. Uh-huh. Right? So you see what Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essenes, when we read the Old Testament, they're nowhere. Read the New Testament, you hear these people, the Pharisees and Sadducees, like, where were they in the Old Testament? We don't know, right? And then the Hammonian or the Maccabean revolt actually happened. So, and then we get Herod's temple. So how did all this happen between them being restored, building the temple, to them losing everything, and now you get Herod's temple, a person that's an Edomite, that's not even an Israelite, ruling over them.
That's good.
So real quick, that's what I'm going to make it. You ever heard of Hanukkah?
Yeah.
So this is where Hanukkah comes from, what happened. So it's very interesting that in Daniel it talks about 4 kingdoms that will rule the earth before the last day, before the Antichrist get established. I think that's Daniel 7. Right. So the head is Babylon. The chest and arms are Medo-Persians. The waist and his legs are Greece. And then the end is the Roman, and the feet mixed, right? So we know that the head and the body, that's the Babylonian Persians, that's in the Bible, that's Old Testament, right? Yeah. And we know that the legs is Rome. We see that in New Testament. What happened to Greece? Where's Greece in the Bible?
Wow.
Why is that? Where's the Maccabees or the Hasmonean dynasty that nobody ever heard of until I went to seminary? where did that come from? Why we don't hear about that in church? If that's actually something Daniel prophesied that was going to happen.
Wow.
Why don't we talk about it? Why nobody really know what Hanukkah is? You know, I'm like, why they have 7 candles, sometimes 9 candles other times?
Mm.
You ever count the candles?
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. So we won't talk about it today though. but basically, John and Matthias, they was being pulled over by the Greeks. Alexander the Great, y'all heard of him before?
Yeah.
So Alexander the Great came over, he took over the territory, and then he died. He gave the split his kingdom among 4 of his friends and generals. One of the people were the Seleucids. I'm going off of my mind, so help me if I'm wrong, somebody. You got some good people, some Bible scholars here. So the Seleucids actually came, and the Ptolemy dynasty. So you heard of Queen Cleopatra? She was a Greek in Egypt, ruling, right? So she was Ptolemy. She was part of the Ptolemy dynasty. But before her, they actually had Jerusalem. The Seleucids came to ran them out, and they took over Jerusalem. And the king, I think it's Antiochus, he basically was very bad. He started killing the people, killing our people, since we know we the people. He basically banned them from keeping the Sabbath day, Saturday. It was not allowed. They couldn't circumcise their children. If they did, the women would be killed, and their babies would be killed and hung among their neck. There was a lot of gruesome things that they did to these people just because they were the people and they were trying to hold the commandments.
Uh-huh.
And now we are the people, we don't want to keep none of them. You know, all these people died for this purpose. Yeah. And then, like I said before, you know, Beneo talked about even in Portugal, same thing happened. They killed people for keeping the commandments. Now you can't get nobody to keep the commandments. Everybody want to eat some pig and, you know, want to do the Sabbath on any day, Sunday, pick the day you want. Now they say any day is your Sabbath. Pick what day you want to rest. I'm like, wait a minute, what's that in the Bible? Now that was new to me. Even as a minister and Christian, I was like, I don't know about that. I never heard about that. But, yeah, so basically, they rose up and they fought against them. And then Matthias was the one that basically was going to kill a pig on the altar of Yah. And one of them said, no, we ain't having this. So he killed somebody and killed the Jew, the Israelite, or it could be Jew or Jewish, it's very interesting. But the person that was going to do it, Matthias killed him, and they ran to the mountains, they started fighting. And then Judas Maccabees, they called him Judas the Hammer because he brought the hammer and beat him down, right? And after all them died, Simon became the basically leader. And I want to say John Hyrcanus, I can't remember which one it was, but the Romans basically also, they were Levites, but they weren't the high priests. They were just regular little, the small little local priests. The high priest you had to come from the Aaron, right? So they didn't come from Aaron, but the Romans came and said, okay, we're going to make you the high priest. Now that's not even, you can't even do that. That's not even biblical. God, y'all said don't do that. But a Roman outside influence came in and said, you the high priest.
Wow.
So then even later on, one of them, and I think maybe that was Simon, but John Hyrcanus, I want to say he was the one that actually came in and also said, I'm the king too. Called himself. So we know the kings came from what tribe? Judah, right? There was a promise given to David that it would always be through Judah. But now we got Levites doing it, right? We got some stuff that's starting to mess up. And then you see the names start changing, right? You got Matthias and John, Yochanan, right? Simeon, all these Bible, Judas. Now you got Hyrcanus and wait a minute, what happened? They start to assimilate into the culture. Even actually during the time when the Seleucids came, the Israelites said, look, you only have to fight. We want to be part of your people. We're going to get rid of our heritage, and we want a gymnasium, because gymnasium actually means to exercise naked. Mm. Right? So, and the Israelites used to actually maim themselves. They circumcise you naked, and you circumcised, so you stand out, right? So they used to maim themselves to try to blend into society, painfully maim themselves to fit into society. So that's how much of the culture had on them, because they wanted to blend in so much and be part of the Gentiles. Yes, brother.
That when you read and what you're breaking down, That's what people don't understand who Hamashiach was talking about. The sheep that is not of this fold, that he was going to get. Those were the northern kingdom people that were still scattered out, that were living among. That's why when you see Gentiles in the New Testament, if you read in the books of Acts, if you carefully read those churches, Ephesus, Thessalonians, those places where Paul and them were going, those were where the Yahudim are. If you really pay attention to them, they say the Yahudim that were there. They were living as Gentiles. That's why they call them Gentiles.
Yes, there was some that actually living, and there were also, there was some, like I said, was lighting to the Gentiles too, right? So even though he was going to some of those nations, the other people also got involved in it as well, right? So, and we won't even go through some of that, because if you look at the key words, it's very interesting, because I don't think Gentile is not even a word that's in Greek or Hebrew. So how do we get the word? Why is so much confusion among that? Thank you, brother. Yes, that's definitely. So this might be why they want to teach some of this, right? Because you start seeing a changing of the people. Because what they want to teach you is that, Rome is the Christian church. Everything goes to Rome now, right? But where did the Messiah die? Israel. So how do we get to Rome? Why all this stuff we doing is Roman Catholicism basically bred in us? Interesting.
That's good.
So, so this guy right here, he became, I think it was actually another one. I want to say it's one of these brothers. But anyway, he became ruler. He said, look, I'm going to put my other two brothers in jail, put them in prison so they can't become rulers anymore. Right? So he died, and before he died, he was married to Salome. And then when he died, she basically got him out of prison and married one of the brothers. Right? And then he died. And guess who became ruler? The girl, the woman, the queen. That's the queen I'm talking about, Salome. She ruled Israel, and they liked her, they loved her. But then John Hyrcanus came. She ruled, she actually feared Yah because she knew that she shouldn't be a high priest because she was a woman. So she basically got her son, John Hyrcanus, and made him the high priest while she ruled. Right? And John Hyrcanus is the one that actually went and forced the people living, there was the Edomites living among Judah in the southern part, and he forced them to convert to being Jews. So now we got two people called Jews, one that actually natural born and people that was forced, not that they wanted to, they were forced to be Jews. So that's very important, right? Because later on when we're talking about, like he said, who's this, who's that, it starts getting confusing because we don't know. So, when we leave out this story, you won't know who's what, right? So somebody can replace the original people.
That's right. Good. Like now.
Like now. That's exactly what's happening. That's why we don't know. We're looking at the pictures and, pastor, youth pastor. And, I'm looking at teaching, children about who the Bible story, see all the little white Bible characters. They be like, they can't identify with them, not knowing that these people are their people.
Yeah.
But they can't identify with them. So, because there was a replacement done.
That's
right?
good.
So people talking about, I think Brother Obadiah talking about replacement theology.
Yeah.
This was a true replacement of people
That's
that actually happened. And then later on, what happened is, her other son, Aristobulus, I believe he said his name, basically wanted to become king too. So he started fighting. He had to put his mom in jail and start fighting with his brother. And he basically went to the Romans for help. John Hyrcanus went to the Romans for help. And guess who took over? The Romans. And they were like, okay, both of y'all come for help. We just walk in and take over. And that's what happened with Pompey. Pope came in. He came in and actually took over. So when he took over, he actually made basically Antipater, who was an Edomite, actually helped Julius Caesar, Caesar Augustus, one of the Caesars, and kind of messed up a coup that was going to kill him. So he's like, okay, you in good with me, with the Romans, so I'm going to make your son king of the Jews, Herod the Great. Herod the Great married a person from the Hasmonean dynasty, marrying them. Some people think that Mary married Herod, but it's not true. It was a different one, Miriam. But he actually married into the Israelites, right? And so once he, it's a long story about how he got help. But anyway, afterwards, he basically killed Miriam because he was jealous of her. Thought somebody might mess with her while he was gone. So he killed her and killed his two sons because he thought that, they started getting too much popularity because everybody wanted to go back. The Israelites want to go back to, their old rule. So he killed the sons, but then later on, they had children, Herod Agrippa. So they were half Israelite through the mother's side and half Edomite. So when you hear these names in the Bible, now you can be like, oh, wait a minute. You can kind of picture who these people are, because they don't teach none of this, and even in seminary, they don't teach you this. So now when you actually go into the Bible, start making sense. Why did Herod go around killing all the children 2 years old? Because they weren't his people.
Yeah.
He didn't care about them. It wasn't like he was killing his own people. He was killing people that wanted. He killed his own son and wife. So you know he didn't care about people that wasn't even related to him.
That's
But
good.
that he wanted to get back to identify with the Israelites, and that's when he expanded the temple and everything else. So he didn't care about the temple. He put pagan stuff in the temple. A lot of people don't know that. He put a pagan eagle, golden eagle, and people, you know, the Israelites were rise up and say, don't put that in the temple. And he's like, I don't care. You know, no. He was trying to please the Romans. So, all right. So, any questions? I know I've been through a lot, so I'm just trying to hit the top parts. Any questions, comments? All right. So, where we start? All right. Herod's temple, right? So we know that the Messiah died, and then people start calling it the Nazarenes or the Christians, right? And then they had so when they start calling Christians, when were they first called Christians?
Antioch.
Antioch. What is Antioch? What was the Antioch named after? So the person, the general that was basically under Alexander the Great. That's very similar. Yes, that's good. I can't remember his name. It was something like Seleucid, basically the dynasty, so he had a very similar name. But his father was named Antiochus, I want to say. So he basically named Antioch after his father. So it's actually a Greek name that was named after. So who do you think living there? A lot of Greeks, right? Right? So then, you ever heard the church of Laodicea?
Yeah.
That was his mother, named that after his mother. So that was the one that he said, what was the warning that you about? Was that the first love one? I forgot the first love. One of the bad ones anyway. One of the bad ones that he actually said, right? So you can see what was going on in those churches and why he was saying stuff, you know, how people were getting pulled away. But, so Antioch is a Greek city, and then we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, and then we had the Council of Jerusalem. That's actually in the Bible where they actually decided about the Gentiles. You know, how the Gentiles, are they supposed to hold to the same laws to us? Do they hold the Mosaic law or not? You know, so basically they agreed that they didn't have to. But it's interesting because we said that, you know, earlier there was only one law for both the people, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're going to talk about the Grecians, the Gentiles, the Israel, Hebrew, Jews, and Jewish. You know, the difference between them. All right, we just look at the Greek concordance, and we see what a Grecian is. In the Old Testament, it's a descendant of Javan. Anybody know who Javan is? Javan is actually one of the descendants of, what's the three sons? Ham, Shem, Japheth, thank you. It's actually one of his descendants. So those are basically people that are European, basically, right? And then in the New Testament, the word, the same word Grecian means Greek-speaking Jews. So if you just read the word Grecian from the Old Testament to New Testament, you're going to get confused if you just think it's the same people. It's two completely different people. One's Gentiles, and the New Testament is actually Greek-speaking Jews, those that got Hellenized. You know, during the Hellenization, the Greek culture. You know, we can say those as part of frats and masons and stuff. That's a Greek culture. Mm-hmm. So, you know, even the Bible says don't do like the Gentiles, you know, or the Grecians. Don't take on the ways of the Grecians. So, you know, if we actually look through a lot of the frat stuff, those Minerva is one of the goddess of the deltas. That's an issue, right? We got stuff going on. Even in my church, they had, you know, AKA, my mom's AKA. I actually went to a Mason church. So I didn't know it until I became a minister, and I got in trouble. I still don't have my license from that church, even to this day. But that was part of the Hellenization. So when it talks about Gentile in the Old Testament, there's a word goy, right? Goy means a foreign nation. So then it was talking about Gentiles, heathen nations, other people. Right? So when you see the word Gentile in the New Testament, it can mean different things, right? Mm-hmm. It talks about those who were Greek speaking, especially a non-Jew. Then it says there's another Greek word. That doesn't mean it can't be people who are Israelites, but it says especially a non-Jew, right? But then it talks about the Greek word ethnos, which means a non-Jewish person, a pagan. So when you see ethnos, it's a pagan. All right, why is that important? Oh, sorry, not finished. Hebrew. Hebrew, we already talking about Ebrei, that means Hebrew, right? When you see the word in the Old Testament. Israel or the New Testament, Hebrew is the Hebrew. It's really our descendant of Eber, or, the great-grandfather of Abraham. Israel is Israel, both ways. It means a descendant of Israel. But the word Jew in the Old Testament means a descendant of Yahuda, or it's Judah. And in Greek, it's the same thing, right? And then you get a word that's called Jewish. So where that word come from? What's the difference between a Jew and a Jewish person, right? And it actually means resembling a Jew. And it's in the Bible.
Yeah.
It says resembling a Jew. So a lot of time you talk to people about, about us going back to the culture, and they bring out this scripture, not giving heed to Jewish fables. Why doesn't it say Jew fables? Or, it says Jewish.
Yeah.
So we know that in the Bible that the Messiah was saying, that you hold to man's traditions, right? And he talks about washing the hands. And he said, don't your disciples wash your hands before you eat? He was like, no, that was actually one of the rabbinical things that they actually used to do. So what religion was the Messiah? What religion was it? Was he Christian?
Hebraic.
Was he a Nazarene?
No.
He's from Nazareth, but he wasn't a Nazarene, right? He was the one that actually established all that. Mm-hmm. So what customs did he hold to? Torah, right? So how could he be a Judaizer, as they like to say, if the Messiah was actually holding to those same customs?
That's good.
Don't make sense. So he was speaking against Jewish stuff that was going on. The Pharisees, the Jewish stuff, the oral traditions, actually that was going on. So when we actually look at some of the scriptures real quick, it says, then said the Jews, right, among themselves, whither will he go, that he will not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed, the spoor, like my brother Eric was talking about? Among the Gentiles, the Hellen, the Greek-speaking people? So these are the Greeks, talking about the Greek, because he already talks about until the diaspora, the people that's out, or we go among the Greeks, right, Helen, and teach the Gentiles and teach the Greeks. So that's just showing you that he would become the light of the Gentiles. Even then, they were kind of questioning, all right? So think about that in your mind. So we're going to the next scriptures. In those days, when the number of the disciples multiplied, there also arose a murmuring of the Grecians. So are we in the Old Testament or New Testament? Acts. New Testament. So what does that word Grecian mean? The Jews that spoke Greek. So that was the Jews that spoke Greek against the people that knew that they were the Israelites, right? Against the Hebrews. So we know those are all the people that descend from Eber, because their widows were neglected in the daily administration. So a lot of people say, okay, the Jews and the Christians were fighting. No, they were all the same people. There were some that actually were connected to the world, and then those that actually held to the Torah, but they were fighting because they were together now, right? Mm-hmm. So, and he spake boldly in the name of Yahushua and disputed against the Grecians. So he's speaking against other people that's Jews. He wasn't speaking against Gentiles, right? But they went about to slay them. So they tried to take out their own people. Yeah. So it reminds me a lot of when I see some of them Facebook posts when Christians and our people are fighting against each other. They trying to kill each other. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? We all the same people. Yeah. Same problems then that was happening even today. Then it says in Acts, and he came to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timothy, and the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, she was a true Jew, right? And believed, but his father was a Greek, a Hellen. So which one is that? What was his father? It was a Greek, right? So it's very interesting because we got some books of Timothy that actually has him teaching other people. Interesting. But they didn't even want him going to the temple because they got in trouble when they thought that he went to the temple, and that's when they went crazy and try to hurt Paul and everybody else. So, and they are informed of thee that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles, the Greeks. So these Jews are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after their customs. So basically there were some teachings, and as we said, that was the Council of Jerusalem that they had made that agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're talking about Paul's mission to the Gentiles, right? So when we start talking about what Yahushua said, the Messiah, then it says, and they will fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. Nations is ethnos, that's the heathen word. To all the heathen world. Where are we now? We're in the heathen world, right? We're in all nations. So he was talking about what was happening. Now you can say that's part of the transatlantic right there, right?
Uh-huh.
But it said they will be sent through all nations. When do you know of a time after 70 AD where there's certain people that were sent among all nations?
Wow.
We're the only people. We're the only ones. And shall be and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Who's in Jerusalem now? Right, so they are, you know, where did they come from? You know, all of them came from Gentile nations. So when we talk about Ashkenazi, they Gentiles. Well, a lot of people want to call them Edomites, but they're really Gentiles.
Yeah.
There's a few of them that are Edomites, only a few of them, but most of them are converts. We're always talking about the convert of the Khazarians. They converted to it, but there was still some that taught them and then assimilate and kind of hid among them. So when we say that word, bless you, we know Gentiles means ethnos, right? Heathens. So when we're talking about Isaiah, we have to make sure we understand. It says, raise up the tribe of Jacob, restore the preserve of Israel, and also give thee a light to the Gentiles, the Goy, the Gentiles, the heathens. He'll be a light to the heathens, right? So when we read in Acts, it says, Acts 13:47, I send out my slides and stuff like I usually do, but for so hath Yahuwah commanded us, I have set thee to be a light to the Gentiles, ethnos.
That's good.
To the who? Heathens. Right? Thou shalt be for salvation unto the end of the world, because he's trying to reach everybody, right? Through Israel. Right? And it says that be it known therefore unto you that the salvation of Yah is sent unto the Gentiles, ethnos, to the heathens.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you even think about what we went back and talked about in Deuteronomy 29, who was among Israelites? Kenites, Edomites, and Egyptians. Basically heathens, other nations that he still said is one law, right? So same thing he's doing here. It's the same kind of concept. Still through Israel, but other people will be brought in.
That's right.
So I'm not going to get into that, but a lot of stuff Paul talked about is ethnos. Heathens. A lot of his stuff he's talking about ethnos. But, you know, talking about the wild branch, you know, being brought back in, he's talking about ethnos, right? So, because of the blindness of Israel, right? Until the fullness of the Gentiles come in. So, as my brother was saying, you know, some people are already part of Israel, but think about it, how this will work out if we're talking about people who are Israelites who only pulled into the culture, right? So until the fullness of the Jewish people that spoke Greek become in, how does that make sense? Right? Same word, ethnos. So we got to make sure we understand, you know, because I know even my brother is going to be bringing, what's his name, Elder Stevens. You know, he's coming and speaking, but he's Gentile, right? But he knows we the people. So that's some of that light that's actually being brought in. So, you know, we got to make sure that, you know, we hear a lot of the camp doctrine. We're talking about a lot of hate, and we want to make sure it's only us, but that's not what the word says. It says that he's going to, through us, reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? So we got to be the light. Are we living as light?
Come on.
That's
Are we
good.
doing right?
That's
when we
good.
look on videos and see our people, what are they doing? Even in the church. Man, it's a mess in the church, right? It's a mess. You know, and I'm talking about the preachers and pastors up there sleeping with people and being homosexual and all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So are we the light? How can our own people get in place if we're not even in place? And how can we reach other people if we're not in place?
That's
right?
good. That's
so we need
good.
to start thinking about, you know, more about how we reach people and by being the light versus saying that we, the people only. You know, it's good, important that we the people,
Yes.
but there's more to it. It's more of an humbling thing.
That's right. That's
More
right.
of humility, not a pride, because
That's right.
we're going to be held more accountable than other nations.
That's right.
It says first to the Jews and then to the Gentiles.
That's right.
Both the blessings and the punishments.
That's right.
So if you're not living right, you're in even more trouble,
That's
right? So I take it as a humbling thing, a fearful thing. Just like I said, when I saw Nostradamus and saw the end of the world, I started thinking about it. When I saw this, even as a Christian minister, I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute. They always say that's for the Jews. There's Sabbath for the Jews, Sabbath day. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, this is for me. I got to make sure I do better.
Come on.
So it's accountability. It's not just a cultural fun thing. No, there's a covenant that was given to us from the very beginning that we now can see and understand how important that covenant was given to us.
That's
and
good.
how we must keep it. Brother Eric, that's something to say.
What you're saying is true. The reality is, like, you have a lot of urban apologists that speak against what's happening. And the first thing that you'll hear is saying, we're preaching separatism, we're preaching racism, because all we're thinking about is Israel. Well, the reality is, like you were saying earlier, the stranger has always been among us. But not that we're ministering to the strangers, it's because the strangers are always witnessing what is happening, being done to Israel. And when he said in his word, he said, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men to me.
Right.
So if we are ministering and waking up our people in the midst of our work, that's going to activate the ray of the light of the Most High being shown in us. That's going to draw people to us that are going to be drawn to the Most High. So it's never going to be about a separate thing. It's the awesomeness of the Most High Spirit being poured out on us and activated in us. That is what's drawing people to us.
That's so true.
That's
Because
good.
even like talked about this, how many disciples were there in Acts?
12.
12. Was Paul one of the 12?
No.
So he was the only one called to go speak to the Gentiles out of 13 people that was there. So how important was it for them to actually reach their own people? 12 of them went to their own people, one of them went to the Gentiles. So it just shows you how important it is for us to wake up our own people first, right?
That's right.
Because how can we be a light if we still asleep?
Right.
We got to wake up, right?
That's good.
And I just found this interesting real quick. And when I was just searching through this, I just saw, about Acts 15 through 17. It's a prophecy, and it says, and to this agree the words of the prophets as is written, after this I will return and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down. That's why I was looking at my Jerusalem. Where's Jerusalem? Remember I said it? Yeah. And I will build again the ruins. So Jerusalem got to be in ruins? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Therefore I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after Yah, and all the Gentiles, that's the ethnos, upon whom my name is called, right? Saith Yah, who doeth all these things. So that's the New Testament. There's a prophecy that matches when you go to Amos 9:11, it's the same prophecy. And it says, in that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David that has fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will rebuild it as the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom. Wait a minute, I didn't see that in the New Testament. That's strange, right? And all the heathen, so talking about Gentiles, ethnos, which are called by my name, saith Yahoo, that does this, right? And if you look at the, also look at the New American Standard Bible as well, because they actually go from, they're supposed to be going from the Septuagint. But when you read the Septuagint, which is supposed to be the oldest book of that's in the Old Testament, it says that the remnant of men doesn't even have Edom in there. So where did Edom come from? It's like they writing their own self into, there's a replacement. Remember, the Edomites are actually those people who were actually converted to being Jewish.
Yeah.
And a lot of our texts are based upon the Masoretic text, which is, something that came in 300 AD, well after Yahushua actually walked the earth.
That's good.
So, by that time, they actually were those people. So I just found that interesting. It's like, we have to make sure we understand what we read and look at multiple versions and understand what, where it comes from. But, I'll give just a little bit more than I stopped. And so we were, where we stopped? Yeah, Council of Jerusalem. In 50 AD, in the Bible, they were even kicked out of Rome. Israelites were kicked out of Rome. They couldn't go back. And in 70 AD, there was a Jewish revolt and the temple destroyed. So where did the Israelites go? Right? So we know that, that's right, in Antioch, there were Greek-speaking people, so they weren't going to call the people Nazarenes. They're going to call them based upon their own understanding. That's when they start calling them Christians, right? So when you start reading the Bible, all the people that's talking about Paul, being a Nazarene, and it's basically they're coming from a more of a Israelite understanding. So, yeah, so even Yahushua talked about it, right? We just read this earlier, and then he said, and when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are of Judea flee to the mountains. What does that mean? So this is when 70 AD, the Romans came around and they circled the city, and who fled to the mountains? So if Israel fled to the mountains, who are the people who died in the city?
That's good.
One that didn't flee? Right, obviously, yeah, the ones that go. But there was supposedly, some of this is questionable, but they said that actually was a prophecy that went forth, and the people, I think Benay talks about it when he talks about the taking over of Jerusalem and destruction, that there was a time that the Romans backed up for some reason, and then there were some people who ran out, and they ran to a place called Pella.
Yeah.
And Pella is a place that was in the mountains of Jordan. And there is actually artifacts you can find of people who were of Israelite that actually had artifacts to show that it was true that they actually ran. There were some people that ran, they were called Nazarenes. And that's what I was talking about. But Paul, he said he should be called a Nazarene. Well, that's talking about the Messiah. He was called Nazarene because he came from Nazareth, right?
Uh-huh.
And they were first called Christians at a Greek place called Antioch, right? So, that's what I was talking earlier, that Ananias the high priest with elders and with a certain orator named Tertullus. These are people that actually came to go against Paul. So, but these are people who are, Jewish people, or Jews at least.
Uh-huh. And
And they call him from a sect of the Nazarenes. They didn't call him Christian. They say he's from the sect of the Nazarene because they were from the same understanding of, that the Messiah came from Nazareth. And King Agrippa and Bernice came unto Caesar and saluted Festus. And basically Agrippa said to Paul, you almost persuaded me to be what? A Christian. So the Nazarenes were also called Christians back then too. So it wasn't a bad term that we say now because it wasn't the same Roman Catholicism. It was just a term that they applied to. I know some people say Christos and, but they still identified with these people as Christians or Nazarenes at this time. Or it's the same thing. And this is a good book that kind of breaks down the difference between the two. So after they left Pella, or after they went to Pella, the Nazarenes broke up in other groups. They became different groups. You have a lot of different groups, but ones I'm main those Ebionites broke out of the Nazarenes. And the Ebionites, basically their beliefs was different than the Nazarenes. So they rejected Paul. They didn't believe nothing what Paul said because they said that, hey, the Gentiles are not included. We don't want to include them. So they basically took out all Paul's writings, where the Nazarenes actually accepted Paul's writings, right? This goes back to who's the people, right? You want the Gentiles to be people or not? So you start hearing that even in our communities, right? Yeah. They even says that Yahushua was not divine, the Ebionites. They said that he wasn't divine. He wasn't a divine being. He was just somebody who came to the understanding of who he was after the baptism. Where the Nazarene says that he was the son of Yah, and he always was from the very beginning. They believed that the Virgin Mary, what the Nazarenes did, the Ebionites did not. They didn't believe in the Virgin Mary story, right? So they also so same thing with the Council of Nicaea. They had little differences, if you can't have to keep the laws of Moses or not. And then they also accepted, Nazarenes also accepted that they even the Nazarenes said it was okay to call them Christians, where that the Ebionites said, no, we don't want to be a part of, So they even called themselves Christians in certain things. But that's old, that's before Roman Catholicism. And to get it real quick, this is the end. And so after they destroyed the temple, a lot of people don't know Masada happened, that Herod actually built these forts because he said, if these people kill me, try to kill me, I'm going to run to these forts and be protected. So one of the forts was called Masada. They don't talk about the Romans. That was one of the last places that they actually fought, and they actually found like samples and stuff. I think Benaya came here and talked about how they saw the samples had braids and stuff, more like our hair. And they basically took over and they killed themselves before the Romans took over because they said we're not going to be, converted to Gentiles. So, it's hard for us to even to come to a Sabbath service, right? They actually died over it, and we like, oh, I'm sleeping. But then remember, the temple's destroyed, so now the the Sadducees and the other people actually don't have a temple to worship, right? So they start creating something called rabbinical Judaism. So you start hearing what we hear now is rabbinical Judaism. It's not the same stuff of the Old Testament, so they don't believe in that. I don't know if you've seen the tattoo of Kyrie Irving that has a hand and an eye.
Uh-huh.
That's Kabbalah. That's part of that's Jewish occult. That's part of the Jewish occult. But it's Kabbalah. So Masons believe in the Kabbalah. They believe in the Bible, but it's the Kabbalah. It's the Jewish occult. It's not the same. That's received like the dreidel and stuff in Hanukkah, the star and all that stuff start coming, which is not in the Old Testament, right? And then you start hearing about the early church fathers. So that's what they taught me. In seminary, they came here and they erased all this and they start talking about these people.
Uh-huh.
So they basically start to replace, the Israelites with Romans. So we start hearing about early church. You hear Polycarp and Irenaeus and people like that. But they basically were actually, they came with John. John, remember, was the only disciple that didn't die. You remember that? He lived until 100 AD, I think. So well after the temple was destroyed. And later on, it was important because, later on. But anyway, after all the wars and stuff, there was a lot of harsh feelings. So he, only people that was starting to be in Israel in that area were Gentiles in Jerusalem. So he started teaching some of them. So in 135, there was a Jewish revolt, a second Jewish revolt. A lot of people don't talk about that. Bar Kokhba. They actually thought he was going to be the Messiah. Secondly, and remember in that same Luke 21, the Messiah says, many will come in my name or act like they're Messiahs, and they're not. This was one of them that actually came right after he died, And he didn't win. He got beat down by Hadrian. And Hadrian is actually the emperor of Rome, and he took the name of Israel and renamed it Palestine. So you hear Palestinians now? That's where that comes from. He said, okay, y'all want to mess with me? I'm going to turn this city into a Roman city. I'm going to take the identity completely away. And he turned it to a Roman city. I think the place was called, I'm just kind of down here, but Aelia Capitolia now. So that actually was talking about in honor of Jupiter, the god. He built a temple for Jupiter on the Temple Mount, actually. So it was a whole, so when you start looking at stuff now over there in Israel, you can understand now why the people were different, because he kicked out the Jews out of Israel. The only people who was left was the Greek people and the Edomites. So he kicked them out, and then that's when you get Constantine. We talked about Constantine, the Council of Nicaea, and this is what some of the things that I'll go real quick over this part. And it talks about the Jewish and Christians are the same. Or it's supposed to be Nazarenes, or no, Jewish Christians. He said basically they hold to the same customs. He didn't see much difference. This is Justice Martyr. He said he didn't see much difference between the two. They the same, they both saying even though he doesn't feel like you have to keep the law, not the laws, all the ceremonies and stuff. He said that there's nothing wrong with what they do. Kind of like what we're doing here, how some Christian pastor said, oh, that's a cult. He didn't say that. He's a Gentile. He said, no, it's not that. They just hold on to the Old Testament stuff where, we know that, they say that they've been delivered and don't have to do those things as Gentiles. He understood that there might have been a difference between the two. So he didn't condemn them. But, in Acts, basically it was the Israelites trying to reach the Gentiles. So now it's the Gentiles trying to reach Israelites. They switched the ground. Because now they took over the city. They ran out all the Israelites, and now they're trying to go back and trying to reach out to them. And then, that's the same thing. So this is Constantine. This is what he says. I renounce all customs, rites, legalism, unleavened breads, and sacrifices of lambs of the Hebrews, and all the other feasts of the Hebrews, sacrifices, prayers, aspirations, purifications, sanctifications, and propitiations, and fasts, and new moons, and Sabbaths, and superstitions, and hymns, and chants, and observances, and synagogues. So Constantine said, I'm getting rid of all that stuff. He says, he even said absolutely everything Jewish, every law, rite, and custom, and if afterwards I shall wish to deny and return to Jewish superstitions, or shall be found eating with the Jews, or feasting with them, or secretly conversing and condemning the Christian religion instead of openly confuting them and condemning their vain faith, then let the trembling of Cain and the leprosy of Gehazi cleave to me, as well as the legal punishment to which I acknowledge myself liable, and may I be an anthem in the world to come, and may my soul be set down with Satan and the devils. So he was real serious about getting rid of the Jewish, right? Because it was a pagan, right? He was trying to convert the people to a more of a Western Christmas, you got different gods and stuff, type of mixed religion, right? So he hated the Jews. Because, he knows the history of all the fights and stuff. And then at the council, this is 365, he says, Christians must not Judaize. So first they were nice and stuff with the Jewish Christians and the Nazarenes. Now they then totally faced once they took control of Jerusalem. So Christians must not Judaize by resting on the Sabbath, but must work on that day, rather honoring the Lord's Day, Sunday. So how did it change from Saturday to Sunday? There's your answer. He made it a law. But if any shall be found to be Judaizers, let them be an anathema from Christ. So separated. So that's 365 AD. And then Jerome says that we should now especially consider heretics who call themselves Nazarenes. They are mainly Jews and nothing else. So now there's a difference, separation. This is 420 AD, right? They make use not only of the New Testament, but they also use in a way the Old Testament of the Jews, for they do not forbid the books of the law, the prophets, and the writings. So, wait a minute. They do not forbid those books. So they said basically you're supposed to forbid the Old Testament. So that's the reason why in seminary, they only was saying that a lot of people never even read the Old Testament, only read the New Testament. So, because it tells you who we are, who the people are. It's us, the people who was given the covenant from when we first started, right? So that they are approved by the Jews, from whom the Nazarenes do not differ in anything. So they basically, once again, put the Nazarenes associated with the Jews instead of with the Christians. And they profess all the dogmas pertaining to the prescriptions of the law and to the customs of the Jews, except they believe in the Messiah. So they should show you there was a difference there. They preach that there is but one God and his son Jesus, or Yahusha, but they are very learned in the Hebrew language, for they, like the Jews, read the whole law, then the prophets. They differ from the Jews because they believe in the Messiah, and from the Christians, in that they are to this day bound to the Jewish rite, just as circumcision, the Sabbath, and other ceremonies. So it shows the difference between us and them, right? So that's when they start changing a lot. So, in closing, I think that's it. After all this happened, that's when we get the Khazarians. 400 years later. So people were like, all this stuff, the Khazarians, y'all blame the Khazarians for a lot of stuff that happened way before they came on the scene. Right. So, that's where the Ashkenazi Jews, a lot of them come from. But they also are blended with Edomites. There are some Edomites, but it's a very small number. Usually those are the ones actually in more control. But a lot of them, the ones that's Khazarian, don't even know what's going on. They just think the people that have been told they're the people. Right. And they've been moving in that. So hopefully I answer all the questions that I said I was going to answer. I thank y'all for being patient with me, but I want to make sure it's very important to understand this history, right? And now when you read the Bible, you'll see it in a different light. Amen? Amen. All right, thank you.
Can we give our speaker a hand? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I was truly barucked by that word. You're going to email me some stuff. Yeah, cool, yeah. I told you I'd be taking stuff. But just to kind of implement something, a lot of people try and try to make the word Christian, and they try to make it like a good thing. But what we don't realize is that Christianity been around 100 years even before the Mashiach. And it's not an Hebrew word, it's not a Hebraic word, it's a Greek word. It don't come from us. And what they try to do is try to modernize and when I look at the word Christianity, and there's a lot of, and I have a lot of brothers and sisters that are in Christianity still, and now with the new walk of the new faith, they call it the Hebraic Christians. Like Pastor Johnson, that's what they call themselves. They call themselves Christian Hebrews. But I kind of get confused with that, because some of them go by the Torah, but then there's some of them that don't go by the Torah. They believe that just like Christianity, that is done away with. But it's just interesting. At the end of every service, at the end of every program, we try to implement black businesses.
Some of that is because people don't understand that was actually a translated term to describe black people. And a lot of the people, that's why you heard of Christianity before, because they were practicing it in Egypt. And so that's why when they were saying that they were called Christian, that was how they identified us.
I got a cousin right now, and that's the very words that he said on yesterday, because he practiced Egyptology. And Christianity is written on some of the walls.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, that is true. That was it?
Yeah, that was
Okay. At the end of every service, we try to implement black businesses because we believe in supporting our own and trying to publicize our own, push our own. Authors, any some good books. Can I get that book one more time? Pastor Cheek turned me on to this book called The Destruction of Black Civilization. Great book. I got 2 pages. But I read the reviews on this, and it is off the chain from what I read. I even looked at some videos that they have out on reviews of The Destruction of the Black Civilization. Great book. It talks about the book of Maccabees. It talks about the transition that's missing, what Elder was talking about earlier. But it's a good book, around $17. You can get it on Amazon and eBay. Another one is called The Bible is Black History by Theron D. Williams. You can get this on Amazon and eBay. And I think it's around $17, but it's well worth it. Great book, well worth it. Another one is my sister, Lady Cheeks back there, Cassandra. She has a book out called A Mother's Love, and it talks about how a mother should raise and how she loves her children. It's a great book. Y'all have got to get this because we have a lot of young mothers that are out here who really don't know nothing about motherhood. And this is the bomb. This right here kind of gets me jealous. But it you know what? She says this is for the young mothers, but I think it's also for young fathers as well. Because there's a whole lot of fathers. I know for a long time I was raising my kids by myself until the Most High sent me my Isha. And some of the things that she's saying in this book touched some real vital points that I was going through at the time as a man. But y'all get this book right here. You can get it on Amazon.com. I think it's like $15. Great book. Is Joshua here? Joshua in the building? Yeah, come on up here. This is a young entrepreneur himself.
Shabbat Shalom. Like brother said, my name is Joshua. Big ups to Brother Jesher for the message. You're powerful. Should have took some notes, but I'll get what you got there. So I only got Facebook. So I just want to promote this business. It's not mine. I met this brother on Instagram. It's called Raw Royalty. Makes brushes or he sends out brushes. So it's for your hair, for your beard. The reason why this is important because the brushes that we use has pig in it. So this is pork free. So yeah, that's it. Yo, you can find them on Instagram. It's Raw Royal 777. Raw Royal. Yes, ma'am.
Sister LaShonda, you want to go? This is my new physical therapist right here.
Hello everyone, Shabbat Shalom. First, before I even do any advertising, everyone, let's just give a warm round of applause for the awesome job you've done. Yes. And it's just amazing how we allow ourselves to be used by Yahweh to just get in His Word and study, and then just pull from all different directions as well. From the relics to all these different things, to be able to just put forth such an awesome message. So just hats off to you. Praise God. Well, my name is Lawndale Atkinson. I am a licensed massage therapist since 2008. And I currently own my own office, Massage Opulence, Wellness Meets Luxury. I do relaxation massage, but I'm more or less like a troubleshooter medical type. So therefore, things like from your everyday wear and tear, computers or what have you. But I do a lot of focused therapies, treatments for people, preventing people from having to go to the doctors and surgeries and things like that, or either repair when they come out of the surgeries. And so therefore just helping you to be like more alert with your, it's not just massage, but I also have to just keep you more, self-aware of what your body is telling you, to listen to our bodies. Yahuwah created our bodies, and He has given us the intelligence to actually monitor those things. So we need to just, just operate in that grace, that ability to actually stay ahead of the game. And I am located at 2311 West Cone Boulevard and Suite 138. And my number is 336-324-3062. Again, that's 336-324-3062. And so just to name a few of the things I do: prenatal therapies, energy work, deep tissue, trigger point therapy, sports medicine, reflexology, things along those lines. And then also my sister, who is absent today, she's at home. Her business is the bed bonnet, sleep free and let the bed with the bonnet. So for all of the ladies that are, you want to get your sexy back, you want to be able to go to bed without wearing the bonnets on your head or anything like that when they fall off at night. And I see someone that understands what I'm talking about. But with this, it protects your hair all throughout the night. It does not come off. It prevents breakage, dryness, frizz, split ends. All that stuff is completely eliminated. And it's a cooling fabric, so as you lie on it at night, for those who get hot flashes, thing in the past for you. And then for the men also can use those as well. I know I do rags, fellas, but this is another way to, bring your sexy back for the women. That's all I'm saying. And you can find her on Facebook at the Bed Bonnet, thebedbonnet.com on Facebook. She's also on Instagram, and you can go to bedbonnet.com. And on YouTube, Bed Bonnet, she has an instructional video there where you can actually see how to put it on, your bed and everything, all of that maintenance there. And her number is 919-273-0545. Pardon the memory on that. With all these smartphones, you just kind of get a little bit lazy. But that's it.
Anyone else? I missed anyone? Anyone? Okay. Come here, Bree. Come up here for a second. Y'all, this young lady, she comes here, she goes to work. She don't complain. We thank the Most High for you, whatever. Anyway. We want to let you know how much we appreciate the work that you do behind the scenes. And we got this little thing from you. for you. Elder Wiggins, if you would, come on up here, sir. Yes, sir. You know, we have a thing that we do here that we try to do once a month where we try to show everyone how much we appreciate what they do. I think we started it back in December or November, one of them. Yeah. But this is one of the original soldiers when me and Pastor Cheek and Lady Cassandra, all of us started fellowshipping, and we said, you know what, we're going to open up a building. We have nowhere to go. There's a church on every corner, but they are not of this Hebraic faith. But I thank the Most High because all odds were against you, man, and you stood out. You know, you even provided ways for us to fellowship, and we're thankful for it. You know, Elder Chief would go to Greensboro and minister to the people over there, although some of them didn't want to hear it, but y'all went anyway. But we just want to let you know how much we appreciate you and how much we love you, man, and we hope that blesses you and helps you out. And whenever you get ready to pray and study, just wrap it around your shoulder. Yeah. You better not try, soldier. You better not do it next. Okay, I'm gonna ask elders if you would to come back and we got some refreshments, little dinner up there in the back. So I want to ask you to come up back and pray us out, and pray for the meal, the food.
I appreciate you. Yeah, so thank y'all for taking the time and staying awake as much as possible. I know it gets kind of dry, but I think it's so important to make sure we lay the foundation so we move forward, really understand what we're dealing with, because there's a lot of different theologies in Libya and other places. A lot of people don't know some of the early, what they call church fathers, like Tertullian. He's a big one. He talks about the cross as pagan and a lot of other stuff. But he was a brother. So, you know, but every time they show you the Christian church fathers, they're all white. So that shows you something wrong with that as well. But that was interesting to hear about Christianity in Egypt too. So, because I think he went to Egypt, but yeah, there's some stuff that was going on there. So, but I thank y'all, and let us just be dismissed. Any other comments, questions? Make sure I didn't leave nobody confused and nothing. Y'all come talk to me. Very hard to go through all that in a small period. So let us pray. Dear Yah, we thank you for everything you've done for us. We thank you for your word and your understanding of your word and us coming together as your people. Help us to continue to live our life in the glory of you, knowing that your coming is soon to be returned. And help us to go out to reach out to everyone we can, for we know that even in the beginning, your disciples reached your people. So help us to be a light, not only to the Gentiles, but also to our people. Help us to wake up as many as we can, for we know that a time is coming for us to be persecuted and things to happen, but that we will be brought out of it and brought back to you. So help us to get in place, for we know that there's a lot of strange things happening in the world, but we know that your love is overshadows all those things. So help us to draw near to you, to know that we'll be safe, and know that your arms and love and protections will always be with you, not only in this world, but the world to come. We thank you, and we ask you for safe travel for everyone that's going back home near and far. And we ask you to just continue to help us to reach our family members, our friends, and all those who don't truly know who you are, and also who they are in you as your people. We thank you and ask you to bless this food we're about to receive. We thank you for the providers and everyone that came together. We thank you for Pastor Douglas and Sister Douglas as well. We thank you for all that they do and they continue to do to help us to continue to come together from many different cities all throughout North Carolina and beyond. We ask you to give them favor in their life and continue to direct them to continue to do the great work that you have working through them. We praise you in Yahushua's name. Amen.
Amen.